Yes.
Hello, I'm Mike Daniels, Head of Land and Policy from the John Muir Trust, and we're here to talk about proposing a land carbon tax to tackle climate change in our rural areas in Scotland. Our land is punching way below its weight in terms of climate change. We have a huge land mass and a relatively small population. Compared to England, we've got 6 times the amount of land per person in the country. So we're rich in poor quality land. As you can see here behind me, a lot of Scotland is land that is agriculturally unproductive and ecologically impoverished. And that's a result of centuries of overgrazing, overburning, clearing trees, and it's currently releasing more carbon into the atmosphere than removing it. We're proposing a bold and simple solution that could in one fell swoop lock up carbon, release carbon, lock up carbon, boost biodiversity and regenerate our most sparsely populated communities. What we're proposing is that we tax emissions from the land and we create a land carbon tax. We already have incentives in place. We've got Peatland Action Fund, Scottish Forestry grant schemes, and a range of landowners who have taken up their responsibilities by engaging in these schemes. But we live in the real world. As the Climate Change Committee told the Scottish Parliament in 2018, we have great ambitions, but we were falling short on tree planting and peatland restoration because we were relying on voluntary measures alone, and we do not have in place the regulatory framework to make this happen right across the board. We need every landowner to pull their weight. Of course, incentives are important, but we also need regulations to make people do the right thing. Those who manage land should be required to pay a land carbon tax, a tax with a banding system based on evaluation of their current emissions and potential reductions. There will be exemptions, of course, for those who are already making a contribution to public goods, like those producing food, or those who are already embracing the peatland and forestry schemes available, and also those too small to tax administratively, for example, less than 1,000 hectares. We have models that already exist. Local authorities have recently evaluated sport shooting for non-domestic rates at a rate of about £2 to £5 per hectare, and band ratings of domestic properties are coming in based on their emissions. And we have a method for assessing natural capital assets of land. Income raised from a land carbon tax could be ring-fenced to fund woodland and peatland restoration. From published data, we estimate this land currently emits 4.1 million metric tonnes annually. By restoring peatlands and regenerating woodlands, it could instead lock up to 12 million metric tonnes and become a net carbon sink for Scotland and for the rest of the planet. Well, firstly, taxes generally encourage the right thing. They encourage behavioural change. And so if we have a tax system, that would, A, the polluter would pay, and therefore people that continue to create emissions would be paying for that. But B, the revenue generated from that would enable positive action. Another benefit of this measure is that it not only reduces emissions, but it actually encourages carbon sequestration. So not only will we reduce the net balance of carbon being emitted by the country, but will actually suck up carbon. This measure is also a win-win in terms of our biodiversity emergency. As a country, we're also facing a collapse in the number of species and habitats. But by restoring our peatlands and by restoring our woodlands, we will actually provide habitat for these rare species and encourage and increase the biodiversity across the country. So it's a win-win in terms of both tackling a climate emergency and a biodiversity emergency. Finally, this policy would also encourage and help our rural communities. At the moment, our uplands support a really small number of jobs per hectares because of our impoverished landscapes. But by increasing the woodland cover and restoring these peatlands, we could provide a whole lot of opportunities for rural communities. This would enable, for example, we could enable mountain bike trails, ecotourism, woodland timber products, log cabins, places to live. So overall, by restoring our natural environment, we're also restoring our opportunities for local rural communities.